A very good evening and a warm welcome to State of Business on Art Television. I'm Shine Ali and let's have a look at the headlines first. Protests continue with citizens seeking paradigm shift. Easter Sunday investigation generates 25,653 charges and 27 cases against 79 individuals. News in detail. Anti-government protest outside the presidential secretariat continues for the fourth consecutive day as more people continue to join the campaign to oust the current administration. The campaign started on Saturday morning as thousands braved adverse weather over the past few days with only the shelter provided by their temporary tents and the goodwill of volunteers for supplies. The site set up by the government for the citizens to hold protests was renamed as Gota Gogama yesterday by protesters who have occupied the site. Demanding President Gotabaya Rajapaksa's resignation amidst the worsening economic crisis, the protesters vow not to go home until the president steps down from the post. The protest at the agitation site started on 9th April with the participation of thousands of people. Meanwhile, pro-government protests were staged in Kandy, Nikavaratia, Tangal and Badal Kumbura by several groups with the participation of the chairman and deputy chairman of the Pradesh Sabhas of respective areas. A group of protesters supporting and opposing the government clashed in Chilao yesterday, causing police and security forces personnel to be deployed to disperse the protesters and bring the situation under control. In Putlam, when a group of pro-government activists including State Minister Sanat Nishantha tried to stage a protest march, a tense situation arose between a group of UNP protesters and another group of protesters. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, in his address to the nation yesterday, complained that the nation loses opportunities to secure forex the more citizens continue to engage in protest. Prime Minister Rajapaksa, citing his many years of political experience, requested people to go home so that they may avoid the adverse consequences experienced in the past.
මතක තියාගන්න. අහිමි වීන වගේම අත්හැරීමත් දේශපාලනයේ අපිට හොඳට පුරුදුයි. මිත්‍රවරුනි, පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ 225ම එපා කියන සටන් පාටි දැන් ඇහෙනවා. එයින් අදහස් කරන්නේ මේ ප්‍රජාතන්ත්‍රවාදී ක්‍රමයේ ප්‍රතික්ෂේප කිරීම නම් ඒ භයානකම ඉතිහාසය දිහා බලලා තේරුම් ගන්න ඕන. පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට බෝම්බ ගහලා මුළු පාර්ලිමේන්තුවම විනාශ කරන්න හැදීමෙන් උණු විපත අපි දැසින් දැක්කා. එදා පාර්ලිමේන්තුව ප්‍රජාතන්ත්‍රවාදී ප්‍රතික්ෂේප කරපු නිසා පාරවල් දිගේ තරුණලී ගලා ගිය හැටි අපි දැක්කා. ටයර් සෑමත දහස් ගණන් තරුණයෝ පන පිටින් පිච්චුණා. 88 89 අඳුරු යුගයේදී 60,000කට අධික තරුණ ජීවිත අපේ රටට අහිමි වුණා. අපි එදා තරුණ ජීවිත රැක ගන්න දරුවෝ මහන්සියේ තරම ඔබගේ වැඩිහිටියන්ගේ මතකයේ තියෙන බව අපි දන්නවා. දකුණට වගේ මුතුරේ තරුණයන්ටත් මම ඊගෙන මතක් කරලා දෙන්න ඕන. ඒ අතීතයේ ඔබගේ අම්මා තාත්තගෙන් වැඩිහිටියන්ගෙන් ඇහුවොත් කියලා දෙවි. පාර්ලිමේන්තුව එපා, ඡන්ද එපා කියලා මහජන නියෝජිතව මහමග මරා දාලා තමයි 70 80 කාලේ උතුරේ තරුණයෝ ඔය සටන් පටන් ගත්තේ.
Meanwhile, the Treasury announced that it will issue a new circular to address the financial crisis by curbing government spending and tightening fiscal policy ahead of International Monetary Fund discussions next week. The newly appointed Secretary to the Treasury, Mahinda Sirivadana, said that the circular to reduce the government spending will be issued soon. The Secretary of the Ministry of Finance this morning said that the move comes after the island nation officially announced it cannot pay its foreign debts and interest payments amounting to a sovereign debt default because the government had run out of foreign reserves. The Treasury officials also revealed that the Central Bank and Treasury are now in the process of restructuring foreign debts. He said that the Finance Ministry has not decided on any specific budget cuts at the moment, including the Rajapaksa's government's move to reinstate the fertilizer subsidy along with a compensation of 10,000 rupees for 3.1 million families. Sirivadana also admitted that the budget deficit has risen sharply in the last 2 years due to high government spending coupled with low revenue. He further suggested that the government needs to raise revenue, and however, economists say that Sri Lanka's sovereign debt default was expected much earlier and that the authorities failed to establish proper policies to address lapses, including key structural reforms. They also claim that the government, which prioritized its popularity, had postponed many tough policy decisions, including tax hikes and streamlined spending. Stay tuned for more news right after this commercial break. Welcome back after the break. Following the central bank policy rates hike, the Treasury bill weighted average shot up as the 6 months and 1 year maturities reached 25-year highs at yesterday's auction. The total accepted volume rose to 93.71% of the total offered amount against 91.10% in previous weeks. The bid-to-offer ratio stood at 1.24 to 1. The 91-day rose 5.59% to 559 basis points to a weighted average of 19.71%. The 182-day bill rose to 7.67% at 737 basis points to a weighted average of 22.73%. The 364-day bill rose 7.67% week-on-week to 767 basis points to a weighted average of 23.36%. The secondary bond market remained at a standstill, while in secondary bills, the 8th July maturity changed hands at a level of 14% to 15.5% pre-auction. The total transacted volume for the 8th of April in the secondary market for treasury bonds or bills was 6.6 billion rupees. The rate change also drove the weighted average rates on overnight call money and repo increasing to 14.50% each. The net liquidity deficit stood at 601.62 billion rupees yesterday as an amount of 92.65 billion rupees was deposited at central bank's stand deposit facility rate of 13.5% against an amount of 694.27 billion rupees withdrawn at central bank's standard lending facility rate of 14.5%. The Domestic Operations Department of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka injecting 85 billion rupees via a 14-day reverse repo auction on a weighted average rate of 17% value today. The forex market remained inactive and the total US dollar Sri Lankan rupee traded volume for the 8th of April was 30.5 million US dollars. The central bank's interest rate hike has helped restore its credibility, yet Citigroup Global Markets says it is not enough to remove the risk of a debt default. Citigroup attributes this to the political crisis which is delaying the International Monetary Fund bailout. The central bank raised the key rate by 700 basis points last Friday, narrowing the negative gap in real interest rate. The nominal rates adjusted for inflation 420 basis points from 1,120 basis points. Citigroup's chief Asia economist Joanna Chua stated in her report to clients that group views the risk of default for Sri Lanka is very high and holds that while the rate hike helps the rupee, it needs bridge financing and an IMF program to stabilize. The IMF recently said that support program discussions with Sri Lankan policymakers will be held soon to help Sri Lanka overcome the economic crisis pushing citizens' protests. Chief Asia economist Shaw believe that IMF is hesitant to provide a program without a buy-in from all stakeholders as political consensus under President Gotabaya is unlikely. Shaw further states that coupon payments on 18th April may be in jeopardy given depleted reserves and added that the March reserve of 1.94 billion US dollars is not enough to cover swaps with China, India and Bangladesh. Defence Secretary Kamal Gunaratne says that a total of 735 persons have been taken into custody so far over the Easter Sunday attacks and 27 cases have been filed against 79 of them under 25,653 charges. The Defence Secretary also said they will also invite Archbishop of Colombo Cardinal Malcolm Ranjit, whom accused the government of conspiring to come to power, to reveal the investigators what the Catholic Church knows about the incident.
ඔක්තෝබර් මාසයේ වෙනකොට පාස්කු ප්‍රහාරය හා ඊට සමගාමී ක්‍රියාකාරකම් වෙනුවෙන් බන්ධනාගාරගත මුළු සැකකරුවන් 231ක් අතරින් පුද්ගලයන් 79කට ගම්පහ මහනුවර කුරුණෑගල පුත්තලම නුවරඑළිය මඩකලපුව කියන මහාධිකරණවලදී සහ කොළඹ හා කෑගල්ල මහාධිකරණවල පනවා ඇති විශේෂ ත්‍රිපුද්ගල මහාධිකරණයේදී චෝදනා 25,753ක් යටතේ නඩු 27ක් පවරීමට මේ නිලධාරීන් කටයුතු කරලා තියෙනවා. පෙරේද තමයි ඔය ප්‍රකාශය උන්වහන්සේ නිකුත් කරලා තියෙන්නේ. ඇත්තටම අපිටත් හිතා ගන්න බෑ මේ වගේ ප්‍රකාශයක් ඇයි ඒ විදියට නිකුත් කරේ කියලා. මොකද එහෙම ප්‍රකාශයක් නිකුත් කරාට මං හිතනවා උන්වහන්සේ දන්නවා ඇති මේක ඇත්ත තත්ත්වය මොකද්ද.
And that's all news for today. See you tomorrow with State of Business at the usual time. Until then, take care and good night.